Today we are doing show number 16. Super happy that I cannot believe we're at show number 16. That just blows me away. Today is the Gregorian date, obviously, of March 24, but in the Hebrew calendar, in Yehovah's biblical creator's calendar, what is it? It is the first month and the 6th day in the year 6018 from creation. Love it. And Pesach countdown is only 8 days away. Yay. So you remember last week in the whole drama of is the barley Aviv, is it not, all this stuff, and it was called Aviv, so in the land. So here we go, 8 days till Passover. All right, so the Happy Hippy Hebrew Girl Show is going to start today. So we have several new things for you today. Shabbat Shalom, ladies. It is the 7th day of the week. It is Yahovah's Shabbat, his day of rest. I hope that you are resting. I hope what you are doing right now is you've got your feet up somewhere with your slippers on and your bathrobe on and some tea or some challah that you're noshing on from last night, and you are watching the show in a restful state. I hope that is your situation. Mine, I'll show you, I have big old boots on because there was like probably that much snow out there. Yeah, brain just good. And I bet you Maggie and Hadassah and Isaac are also in their PJs. So hopefully you don't mind if I'm, well, actually, no, I got dressed up for you. I got a nice little pretty dress on for you. So maybe someday I'll come in my PJs. So, shalom, ladies of Teshuvah. Welcome, and your families. Welcome to a show dedicated to, obviously, transferring your head knowledge into heart knowledge. We've said this over and over, but I like to drill it in, as well as if there's new people on, I want to make sure that you all know what my show is about. We're going to transfer head knowledge, what you learn up here, into heart knowledge, into what your hands do, what your feet do, your actions. And also, I'm aspiring to be a show of breath of, fresh air. you know. And a show to lighten you up and help you enjoy each other and help you enjoy Yehovah, your Elohim. Yes, the family that you are being invited into. All right, it also is a show to help give you permission to be the beautiful Ezer Kenegdo that you are, that Yehovah created you to be. And the ladies Facebook group, the Colorado Convention, all the workshops that I want to do, all the products that I'm going to create for and have created for Ladies of Teshuvah is all wrapped around the idea, and this show is all wrapped around the idea that you are an Ezer Kenegdo, and what that means, how important that is in the repentance of your family and of your community. You are extremely important. I have to say, if I've heard over and over and over ladies saying, my husband, he's coming, he's just doing what I do. Well, yes, he's going to do what you do, because you are the beauty. You are going to go before him as the beauty, and he was made to watch beauty. You were made to watch Yehovah. And so that's what the Ezer Kenegdo is about. It's a guide. It means guide. It means boundary setter. It means lifesaver. It means protector. This sort of thing. And so Yehovah gave Adam Chava, or the Ezer Kenegdo. He didn't name her Chava. That's another story as to why Adam named her Chava and what Chava actually means. But anyway, so he gave him an Ezer Kenegdo to help guide him, right, to proper worship. So that's what you're doing. You are guiding your family into proper worship. And as we enter the spring feast, that's exactly what you're going to do. You're going to help turn the heads of your children, help turn the heads of your husband or your family, your community, whatever situation you find yourself in, whether you're married or not. You're going to turn heads towards the right worship of the one true living Elohim. So that's what I'm here to help support, to help teach and support. So today's show might include, and again I say might because I kind of operate organically. That's one reason I like these slides, is because the slides actually help me stay on track. Otherwise I'd be down one tangent or another. I know Tanis likes my tangents, but sometimes my tangents don't actually, bring me to the place where I want to go. or at least I get lost in my tangents sometimes. So today's show might include some personal Passover stories or Pesach stories, as well as I want to do a warrior prayer over this season. So, I'm going to talk about that in a little bit, but praying out loud is pretty difficult. I don't know how you feel about that, but we'll talk about that in a second. But that's one thing we're going to do. And then we're going to talk about the flow of the feasts and how they're all, that you kind of have to look at them all together. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to look at some celebration ideas, and perhaps we'll get to a Q&A. So I'd really like you to think of a question that you have. And if I don't know the answer, I'm going to say, I don't know, So I'm not God. I'm not Elohim, ladies. I'm not God. Okay, so I know a lot, and I will go to the wall for a lot. And what I do know, this is my Haggadah, and I won't put something in here unless I don't believe it with all my heart, absolutely. And I will go to the wall for a lot of things, but I am not Elohim. Just remember. Okay. All right. So I'm your host, Rebekah Kahabat Yehovah, if you don't know already. This is Isaac and I many, many years ago in our little house downtown. Do you remember that, Isaac? Oh, girls, do you remember? Oh. It's when we fell in love, which was after we got married. Go figure. It's a long story. Long story. Great story. Wonderful story. But been, for those of you who don't know, I've been Isaac's wife for about 20 years and his friend for 35. Yay. Came out of man-made religion about 33 years old. I need to change that. It's going to mess me up every time. Been a mom for about 18 years. And a Melchizedek Feast Diva for about 10 years, probably going on 11 now. But anyway, I've been executive director of Teshuva Ministries for 5 years, as well as we had many, a couple other, shall I say, ministries prior to this one. But this is the one focused on the truth that I didn't know before. Yay! And then I've hosted, Isaac, I, and our girls have hosted over 200 biblical feasts for Yahovah. One fun fact about me, I didn't like cats until we got Senka. So until we moved to the teepee. When we moved to the teepee, it's like, how do you get rid of mice? You got to get a cat. And then I loved the cat because he got rid of the mice. So there you go. I didn't used to like cats. Big story. No, I didn't used to like cats, but now I do. And all right. So like I was talking before, I feel like this is super important to do right now. And, I'd come and go with being really good at doing this, but I don't know if you can see. I want to do a little war prayer right now, and I know that there are probably so many of you listening right now. Many of you that are. I see your posts, I see your prayers, and I'm like, I don't know if I'm as good as that. But you know what? That's not what matters. We shouldn't be comparing ourselves to each other in any regard for anything, and especially like how we pray, because how you pray is so intimate and personal. And but there's something that after all these years of doing this, and anybody who's been celebrating the feast for very long will know that after all these years of doing this, there's like this pattern that has happened, which is the pattern of Hasatan ramps up his attacks at this time of year. So he is going to try very, very hard to take you out. He does it with us. And I frankly am sick of it. I am so tired of him meddling in my life when it comes to the feast times. He makes it so difficult. And if you weren't a really, really strong person and really were very, very centered and just so, tied at the hip to Yehovah, it would take you out and you may not want to celebrate again. So that's his goal. His goal is to try to destroy anybody who's trying to walk in the path that leads to righteousness, that leads to life everlasting. And so this path is extremely hard to walk this time of year, simply because, not just because everybody around you is not doing it, and it's very difficult to find fellowship who is doing it, but also because Hasatan is dead set against you doing this. So I wrote one way to combat this. I don't know if any of you have heard of John Eldridge and the Ransom Heart Ministries. But there are, John Eldredge taught us that there are two kinds of prayers. One kind of prayer is the heart kind of prayer. The heart prayer is something that is holy ground. You don't touch that, but no one can mess with that. That's between you and Yehovah Elohim. So that deep heart cry to Papa, or joy, or however you express your heart to him, that's between you and him. That's something I learned a long time ago when we were in Christianity. I grew up when I was a young mom in Christianity, I should say. Let me back up for a sec. When I grew up, the one thing I remember about prayer was, you had to pray before you woke up, basically, as you were waking up. So you knelt down by your bed and folded your hands and prayed. And then before bed, you would also do the same thing. You would get down on your knees in front of your bed, fold your hands, and pray. And you would pray over the meals, bless this food, blah, 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 blah. It was very rote, very, very rote. And if you came out of the box at all and you did a heartfelt prayer by the bed or whatnot, that was cool too. But there was this ingrained kind of routine that I grew up with. And so when I became a mom, I'm thinking, this is what I need to pass down to my children. So I remember one day when Maggie was, oh man, Isaac, what was she? Maybe 3? Or something like that. I'm trying to teach her how to get down by her bed. Kneel down by your bed, Maggie, and fold your hands like this and close your eyes. And this is what you're going to say to Yehovah. You didn't know him by Yehovah. I said God to Jesus. And I will never forget Papa throwing me back away from the bed. It was almost like he pushed me away. And I heard in my heart him say, "Get off of holy ground, Rebekah." Because what ended up happening, what I realized what I was doing, was I was taking my little 3-year-old girl by the collar, shoving her down in front of a complete stranger, and telling her to worship him. She didn't know who Yehovah Elohim was. Well, I didn't know him by that name either. She didn't know who this God was that I was trying to get her to worship. And it was somewhat abusive. And not in the sense of bad abuse. I was just trying to teach her to do something, but the thing is that she didn't know who this was. And when he blew me back on my rear end there in the bedroom that evening when I was trying to teach her how to do this, and I got this clarity, it was like, whoa, that's holy ground, I'm not going to touch that. So ever since then, I have never meddled in the heart-to-heart prayer that she has with Yehovah. Now I've been curious, do you pray? Do you talk to him? I've done that, but I haven't meddled in it forced this sort of tradition that I grew up with on her. But one thing that John Eldredge taught us was that there's the two kinds of prayer. One is the heartfelt prayer, and you can't teach that. But the second one is a warrior prayer, and this one you can teach. This one you're taking authority over the demons, and you need to learn how to do that. And so I spent quite a bit of time, Isaac and I did, learning the John Eldredge, it was like 45-minute prayer kind of thing, where it covered a lot of stuff, and you walk through it. And as we were moving into this Hebrew understanding, into the Melchizedek understanding, we took that prayer that we loved so much, and I had to edit it because it was coming from a Christian perspective. It wasn't clarifying a few things. So I edited it and then brought it into our world, so that we could use it. But I created a book for girls and one for boys. And it's a Princess Warrior prayer book and a Young Warrior prayer book. And this is a prayer. This is huge. This walks you through from start to finish. It walks you through how to say a warrior prayer for a young lady and for a young man. Now, even older ladies I love this book. Many people have bought it and said, "Wow, it was good for me." So I do a little teaching on a section, and then here it has the actual prayer that you will say. So you're speaking into the universe and into the demon's ears, words that will force them away. All right, so this is something that you can teach your children. It's something that you can teach yourself and learn yourself. Now, I don't do it enough. I know I don't. There's part of me that just wants to bask in the light of his love, and I just want to, go on with my life. I'm so tired of the battle, I'm sure we all are, on some level. But it is good to know how to say this prayer, how to do this prayer, so that you can do your part in bringing the kingdom to your space, over your, and Yehovah's authority over your things, over your the things that are in your domain. So this is one of the things all about the ascension. So when we celebrate the ascension, we discuss this. We really go into depth about this, learning about what he ascended to. He ascended in all authority, and he's giving his authority to us. He's like letting us use his authority. Tired and weary of the battle. I think we all are. And this brings me to this other point here before we pray, is that, your heart remembers, paradise. So your heart remembers walking in the garden with Yahweh. Your heart remembers the pleasure, the comfort, the breezes, just the easy life. I mean, what else? It wasn't a battle. I mean, maybe there was sin already in the universe. So there was, Adam was supposed to guard the garden, which meant that there was probably some work there to be done in tilling the soil, but nothing like now. So your heart remembers paradise, and so you're going to want that more than anything. So when things go good, it's like sometimes I sit back and I'm like, oh, finally. I get that kind of relief, and I get to sit back, and then all of a sudden, bam, just it hits you like a semi-truck, and you're like, wake up, it's not here yet. You're not in paradise restored yet. It's coming, but not yet. And so right now it's battle. And I think one of the things we can do for each other, one of the nicest things, best things we can do for each other, is to help each other stay in the battle. Stay in the game. It's really tough. I feel like Isaac and I do that for each other all the time. Like, one of us wants to get out. One of us just wants to be done, and you take a deep breath and it comes at you again. Now, it's going to come at us, yes, but there's the prayer idea, the using Yeshua's authority, which Yahweh gave Yeshua, full authority. Using his authority is going to give us a lot more freedom than we have. There's a lot more available, a lot more freedom, a lot more peace available than we probably have right now, because we're probably not bringing the kingdom into our spaces as much as we could, for sure. So I want to pray together, or we're going to go into feast season here, and I know that Hasadon's going to be dead set against every guest that you have that you want to come. He is going to make sure that he's giving them many, many opportunities to not show up. He is going to do whatever he can to foil your plans. And it can be heartbreaking, absolutely heartbreaking. It can be really hard to keep going on, especially when, you love certain people. They disappoint you, they don't show up, they blah, 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 whatever the case may be. They reject you afterwards. I don't know. It's kind of just can be a real hard time. So yes, this season can be absolutely beautiful, but it can also be heartbreaking because of the people that are not there, and the people that need to be there and aren't there, or the people that are just out and out rejecting it, rejecting you, rejecting the message. And so I want to pray. And one of the things that for me, I don't know about you, but praying in public is definitely difficult sometimes, especially trying to tap into just me and him when I know that other people are watching, and I know that other people have expectations. And I've been there. I've been on the receiving end, so I've been listening to someone pray and thinking, why'd you go there? Why'd you go there? Why didn't you say that? Or so it can get to it can be really a place that fosters a lot of judgment when you pray out loud. But I also know how important it is to model a prayer. I also know that I don't care necessarily anymore about what other people think, because I'm just sick and tired of Hasatan. I just want him gone right now. So, and I know from past experience how hard he will attack you, how hard he will attack us, and I'm done. So we're going to pray. Now, it's been a while since I've done a warrior prayer. So what I want you girls to do, what I want your families to do, is I don't want any distractions in your home. Okay, so any music you have on, turn it off. If you have TV on, you shouldn't have the TV on right now. You should have, turn everything off. Dogs, get them settled. Let's see, what else? Phones, turn your phones, ringers off, kind of thing, if you can. Yeah, and then I want you to get into a state of where you're going to be centered on Papa. You're going to think only about Papa, okay? You're not going to think about what you have to do tonight or what you have to do tomorrow or next week. You're going to think about him right now. You're going to bring the kingdom, his power, into your home, into your domain. All right? I want you to close your eyes. For me, it's very important to close my eyes. It used to be just pure tradition, and then I balked at it after I came out. I didn't want pure tradition. I'm like, but I was being feisty. But you know what? It helps so much because it focuses your head. All right? So I want you to think, where's your heart first? Is it anywhere in the room? Where's your heart? Where's your heart? Is your heart with something? Is it with someone? You know, is it with a problem? Where's your heart? Because you need your heart. You need your heart to enter into Yehovah's world and to fight. You need your heart. Okay, and we're going to pray this prayer. We're going to pray because we don't want evil to steal our joy this holy day season. We don't want him to have any access to us, to our families, to our homes, to the people coming who are going to learn from what you're doing and from each other. We're going to pray to claim Yehovah's kingdom over your domain. We're going to pray because you want restoration in Yahuwah, and you want to receive the Ruach in all the strength, as much as she can come. You want her. And we're going to pray because we don't want evil to mess with you at all. We don't want them to cause chaos. Okay, when you say shalom, shalom, it means you're going to destroy the authors who cause chaos. The authors that cause chaos are going before you, and when you say shalom, shalom, you're going to destroy those entities. So we're going to pray this prayer because you want to live, you want to be free, you want joy, and you want to be restored. Okay. You also want to hear the Creator's voice. All right. Tears are good, ladies. Tears are good. Tears. I'm already crying and I haven't even started yet. All right, Yahuwah Elohim, my King. Creator of the universe, covenant maker, restorer of all things. You are the most powerful ones in all the universe, and to you I give everything. And ladies, I'm going to pray in first person. All right? So I want you to pray with me in first person. Okay? Yehovah, you are Daddy. Father, you are Papa. Oh, when I say that word, Papa, it makes me cry. Everything that I ever dreamed of a family, of a home, of what it's like to have a dad and a mom, a good dad and mom and family. All of those I give to you, and I hang on every breath that you say, every breath that you exhale is, I hang on, Papa. I know you are. I know you are good. I know you are true. I know you are my Papa. And with you comes the family of Yehovah Elohim, the mother, the son, a brother, my bridegroom and the rightful king. Oh, I cannot praise your name enough. Yehovah, I know that we are entering into your feast season, and I know how dead set against it your adversary is. He absolutely hates you, and he hates us for following you at all costs. But the story doesn't stop there. For you are so amazing, because you have given us the ability through Yahshua, through the power that you have given him. You give us, that you share his power with us. And we can say to Yehovah Elohim, I ask for your power through your Son to come between us and the adversary. So Yehovah, I ask with all my heart that the blood of Yahshua, your Son, comes between us and the adversary in this day. During this feast season, may your Spirit be with us. May you send angels of mighty strength to surround and protect each one. May you protect us. May you protect our family. I give to you our domain, everything that we own, our bank account, our vehicles, our house, our properties, our children, our children's hearts, our animals, our own bodies, our own hearts, our jobs, all of our domain, everything that we have, I give to you. I lay it at your feet. I do not want to own it or control it, because I can't. I am at your service. I am at your mercy, and I want you to send your strength, your power, your provision, your protection to come and be with me, to fight for me, to protect that which you have given me. May angels of mighty strength surround us. And may the Ruach HaKodesh, may you give her out upon us, and may she fill up our hearts to overflowing. May she fill up our homes so there is nothing else there, that her presence will just squeeze everything else out, and she will be there, the comforter, the guide, wisdom, the one that we desperately need to be in contract with you, Papa. Without her, we can't do anything. Without Yeshua's work, we can do nothing. Without you, we don't even get to live. We need you desperately. Thank you, Papa, for the work that you, your Son, and the Ruach HaKodesh have done on our behalf to save us and to rescue us out of this just horribly dark place. You are light, and we are going to be light with you, and we are going to walk out of here into the happily ever after. But right now, there's much darkness here surrounding us, so I'm in grave need of the blood of Yahshua to protect us. I ask that every person that we have invited to come to learn of you, to celebrate the feast, the upcoming spring feast with us. I pray that each one of those people, all that I have prayed right now, is extended to them. I want coverage for them too. I want them to show up. I don't want anything else to get in the way. No other appointments that come between them and showing up. No other more important things, or something just came up. No. Give them strength of heart. Give them courage. Give them clarity. Give them the ability to just push through and say, no, I'm coming. I want to sit at that feast table. I want to learn about the way that has been made for me to live. So I bring Yeshua's blood over every single person that has said yes to coming to the feast table. May every single one of these ladies' homes be filled with joy this feast season, with lots of beautiful people showing up. May they celebrate with joy in front of you. And may Hasatan be bound and sent to your throne for judgment. All his demons, all his minions, all his snakes, everything that he is going to throw at us, may it all just be repelled in the name of Yeshua, with Yeshua's blood between us and him. May Yahweh, may you have all authority, all your will done in our life. May the demon from hell, may you deal with him. And I command you, Hasatan, in the name of Yeshua HaMashiach, get out of here. You are not welcome. You are not wanted. You take all your thugs and you get bound and you get thrown before the King of the universe for judgment. You are not going to meddle in this. You are not going to make people sick. You are not going to make them not show up. You are not going to cause trouble with jobs. You are going to get away. And I bring you, Yehovah, I bring you and the Ruach HaKodesh into our lives to have your will done in our lives and everyone's lives around us who is going to experience the feast with us. May your will be done in their lives and in our lives. No one else's will, not ours, not Hasatan's, not other people's, not the pagans. Your will, Yehovah. Period. Yes, Papa, we raise our voices together. We cry together. We love together. And we will look at you together. In the great King's name, Yeshua HaMashiach, Amen. Woo. Our battle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the powers, against the forces of darkness, against the spiritual forces of wickedness in the heavenly places. The battle, my friend, ladies, is real. It is real. And your battle has just begun. It has just begun. But that's okay, because Yehovah has given us a sword. He has given us truth, and he has given us Yeshua's blood and his authority. Yeshua is sharing his authority with us. So we just got to learn how to use it. And I'm so rusty at it, but I think we could just be on our knees all the time. Wow, you're 19-year-old. Shanna. You know, I think the battle is really getting from standing up to kneeling down. A lot of times I'm on my face. I'm like prostrate because I don't know, that kneeling thing is just, I'm like, I gotta go all the way down. Sometimes for me and our family, we do that. We used to do it in the teepee. So in the teepee we had about, I'm sorry if my mascara is totally red. In the teepee we had about 8 feet, maybe 6 feet of space. And on Shabbat I had a Shabbat rug, and it's like a Icelander wool. I don't know. It was like alpaca, I think, or something. Anyways, a natural rug, and it was very deep. And so we'd lay it out there for Shabbat, and whenever that came out, we'd all like, oh, it's Shabbat. And so we would get down like this, like all our hands together in the center, and it was just, our knees were up sometimes because we were kind of cramped, but we would get down on our face and pray. Because life at that point was so difficult that we had to have him come through for us. There was just no way we could do this by ourselves. So we just fell to our face and begged Papa for joy and healing and restoration to come through for us. It was very, very powerful. So I do this a lot still, get down that low. And it's not groveling, it's honoring. I'm acknowledging who is in control and who I want to rule my life, who I want to surrender everything to. But I also know, I'm in prayer almost all day long. See, I walk around in prayer, heartfelt prayer. It's the warrior prayer that I've had different formulas for in the past, and I'm learning more. And I had something else I was going to say, but now I've forgotten. You know how in the scriptures he talks about come in, like he's going to put his tent out over us, and that, there's security in that, security in being in Papa's tent, to being in Papa's, his provision, in his tent there's food, in his tent there's comfort, there's beds to sleep on, in his tent there's, everything you need is in his tent, and the protection, and but man, it is a battle right now, ladies, and so fight. You stand up and you fight in the way that the scriptures tells us to fight, and faithfulness is part of that fight. Being faithful, being faithful is continuing. It's like faithfulness as in fidelity. You're gonna do it no matter what. You're gonna be faithful. You're not gonna worship other gods. You're not gonna look to the right or the left. You're gonna look right at him. You're gonna be faithful to him. There's so much to be said on this, so much, and I think that I think this will be a fabulous feast season. Just remember, ladies, probably a warrior prayer every day. A warrior prayer every day would not hurt anything. I think that you should. Sometimes we'll come up to a feast, and all of a sudden we'll have this huge attack. I mean, literally minutes before we start the feast, and we'll look at each other, and Isaac and I will go, "Oh, well, we didn't really pray over that very well, did we?" Sometimes I'm just, la, 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 it's a beautiful feast, da, da, da. But you are preparing with one hand, you're mixing the bread with one hand, and you've got a sword in the other hand, fighting off the Hasatan, okay? So this is your reality right now. It'll be different later, but right now, just get your sword out, get your spatula out, get your wooden spoon out, mix, fight, okay? I like dark, I like, but I also I go for walks with Papa, I speak out loud, lots of different ways, and I do the warrior prayer out loud too. I'll go for a walk, and I'll be like, so tired, get away from me, Hasatan, kind of thing. And all right, so ladies, I have got two things for you, two thoughts for you. All right. So Easter candy is the first thing. It's a little story I'm going to tell you really quick. And I know Isaac has heard this before, and some of you might have heard this before, but I think it's appropriate time because we actually have on us the pagan festival of Easter, Ishtar, which pretty much all of us probably have partaken in the past. And now you are not. This is what makes you a lady of Teshuvah, is you have turned from doing that to doing what Yehovah would rather have you do. Put you in line with him. Easter candy. So this is a little story about knowing the difference between the profane and the holy. So in the scriptures how Yehovah says all the time, he says, I want you to know the difference between the holy and the unholy, the profane and the, set apart. So there's a reason why there's this set apart idea. I remember back in my Celtic days thinking everything was one. There is no such thing as holy and profane. Everything is one. Oh, bad. So not true. That's not what the scriptures talks about. Okay, so just a quick story for you. Several years ago, many years ago, Yehovah was teaching us this 1 year. During this 1 year cycle, he really taught us. There's a ton of kids out here on the water fountain. They're in the water fountain. Anyway, he taught us this 1 year how to, certain things about these pagan festivals that he did not want you to touch at all. So the idea of, in the scriptures in the New Testament, talks about do not eat that which is given to idols or offered to idols. So we were like, what does that mean? All right, so it was after Easter, and we were off the mountain, so we had Passover and all our spring feasts, but we were at a friend's house, so we were out on the mountain in the teepee, and resources were pretty low, so we were at a friend's house, and she had a bowl of Easter candy. Okay, so there was a bowl of Easter candy sitting on a friend's table, and it's that candy because it's pale, right? Pale blue, pale pink, pale yellow, whatever. And Isaac was totally in need of some chocolate. So he grabbed a whole handful and he ate it. As soon as he ate it, within just a little bit, he had literally the most, he had basically strep. It hit him so fast and hard, and he could not swallow without it being extremely painful for about a week. And he knew as soon as he touched that, as soon as it went down, as soon as he got that, he knew that Papa was teaching him that he is not to eat anything that has been offered to an idol. So that candy in particular has been made for that festival. So, when you see a bowl of light pink, light yellow, light blue candy, at around Easter time, even later in the year, that has been created for selling to people celebrating Easter. So as a set-apart person, you do not touch that. Okay. So throughout the course of the year, we got taught about different other things. During Christmas time, we got taught too. But my point here is that you're going to go out, you're going to see all kinds of stuff right now, or you already know this. Don't touch it. Don't touch it. You're set apart. To be set apart means you have a different God. You have a different Elohim that has a different set of rules than the pagans' gods. So you are going to be set apart. You're not going to take part in the Easter candy, okay? So that was something extremely painful for Isaac. But I do remember the girls went over to a friend's house later on, like the week after, and the friends offered my girls some Easter candy. And I remember Maggie, it's like, no. I remember what happened to my dad when he ate that. She didn't want the same thing to happen to her. Anyway, it wasn't funny. It was good. It was wonderful because Papa taught us. So we learned from him. All right, and my second thought today is, I don't know if you got the chance to watch the video I uploaded, I think it was yesterday or the day before, of our time at the Garden Tomb last Sukkot when our family went to Israel. So we got to visit the Garden Tomb and Zedekiah's caves, and it was an amazing experience. Out of all our travels in Israel, that by far is my most favorite time, because we were standing literally in the most holy place in the entire universe. I mean, it was just, it was crazy beautiful because, so I have had a lot of people who said, well, why aren't you taking a tour? Why aren't you doing a tour? And we were like, well, we want the land to speak to us. We want to, kind of let Papa take us where he wanted to take us, and so we were doing it on our own. Well, Papa had in store for us a tour that we did not arrange, and this is one of the points of my story here, is just that I want you, as you're entering into the feast season, to relax and let him guide you. My points of sharing this story with you is to just encourage you and remind you that Papa wants to teach you. And as you're entering into this feast season, relax. Come down a notch. Breathe. He's going to teach you what he wants to teach you this season. You're not going to get the download of everything all in one season. You know, the feasts are like quarries, and you can mine them forever, it feels like, because every single year it's like he shows you something new, and you get this new little treasure to add to your treasure trove about that festival, about that feast. I mean, and so don't go into this like you're going to save yourself. This is a walk with Yahweh. Okay, so you're going to learn so much, but you're going to learn what he wants you to learn. And you know what? So I'm speaking to the ladies who are somewhat new at this, but also ladies, those who have done this for a long time, who think they know it all, who have done it for 10, 20 years or whatnot. You have some things to learn too, because you can't possibly mind these, you know, in a lifetime. There are so many things that we get to learn about his heart towards us in this feast, and he's going to reveal to you new things every single year. So let him teach you, let him guide you, let him show you, and then sit with that. Let that really impact you. So you know, for me, one new thing this year is I was talking to my friend Wendy. We went out for coffee the other day, and she told me about I've seen this a million times. I have read through this a million times, but I never actually saw what actually happened. When Yahshua was in the garden and they came to get him, it says that there was a legion of Roman soldiers that came to get him. A legion. And she looked it up, and we're talking 300 to 600 soldiers came to get him that night. And I didn't see that before. I was thinking, you know, in the paintings it's 1 or 2, maybe 3 kind of thing. But we're talking a legion came to get him. And then on top of it, it goes on to say, they say he says, you know, who are you looking for? And he says, they say, we're looking for Jesus of Nazareth, Yahshua of Nazareth. And he says, I am he. And then a little dialogue there, and then he says it again, I am he. And when he says I am, the next scripture says that the legion was blown back, basically blown back on their butts. Like he vocalized, he said I am, and whew, I mean, brand new to me. I've read that text I don't know how many times, but I never saw that before. How cool is that? So, you know, I'm kind of sitting with that right now, like, wow, like, oh my gosh, that's pretty cool. And I'm also sitting with this visit to the garden tomb that we got to have last Sukkot. So I did the video this week, staying in the subject matter. This is another thing I want to encourage you to do is you don't need the Parsha, ladies. The Parsha is great for extra study later on if you want, but what he wants to talk to you he wants to talk to you now about is the feast. There are so many wonderful things right now to be discussing and studying and learning about that if you're in the midst of Parsha, you're going to completely miss the opportunity of meeting him in real time with him on the subject that he wants to talk about right now. So yeah, I'm not, this is his lesson plan. This is his lesson plan, okay? Yeah, Melissa, you knew about that? I didn't know about that. I mean, I've read it over and over and over, but it never really stuck. So I think one of my points is we have to remember that, he's going to reveal to us what he wants to reveal to us at whenever he wants to. So he's going to cover up and he's going to go, no, not time yet. I want to surprise you with that later. I love that about him. Absolutely love it about him. So he's going to give you the experience that he wants for you. And this is what happened to us in Israel. So we didn't schedule a tour when we were over there. We just felt like Papa would do what he wanted to do. And so when we got to the garden tomb, he had scheduled a tour for us. So these two men, Robert and Andrew. Andrew came from like Sweden or something, and Robert came from the East Coast, the States somewhere. And when we got there, we started looking around, and you can watch that video, and it will kind of show you the garden tomb area and what we were searching for and our experience of that. But these guys told us, Robert told us that morning he was packing to leave. So he was leaving the next day because he'd been there for a month already, and every single day he had gone to the garden. This is his thing, is he loved the garden area, the garden tomb area. So, and it was because of his connection with Ron Wyatt and stuff. So anyway, he had that morning heard Yahweh say, get to the garden today. He wasn't planning on going to the garden again. He'd been there for a month. And he said, okay. So him and Andrew came down to the garden and sat there where they sat normally. And then we happened to come. We were there. They came and sat. And overheard conversation, and I went, whew, I heard him say Ron Wyatt, and I turned and went, whoa, you know Ron Wyatt? And then from there it went on, and they became tour guides for us of the to show us the escarpment where he was crucified in near, there was the skull, the crucifixion site, which was right near a new tomb in a garden. And so all the scriptures pinpoint that this is the location of his crucifixion, his burial, and his resurrection. And I was super excited. And then his connection with Ron Wyatt just threw me over the top, because Ron Wyatt discovered the Ark of the Covenant, and this man confirmed. I'll say this to people. I'll say, go study Ron Wyatt. I'll talk about how the blood was tested and whatnot. And I have a lot of people go, yeah, right, Rebekah. So I'm like, they don't believe Ron Wyatt, whatnot, but that's okay, because I totally believe it. But Yahweh sent this man to confirm it for us there, and because this man knew Ron Wyatt, was there, saw the excavation, and saw it all 30 years ago, or more. Anyway, so that we got a personal tour by somebody who Yahweh wanted us to have a tour with. And those guys, actually, they were tall, and they were strong. They looked taller. Anyway, they ended up walking us down through the Muslim quarter, down to the Zedekiah's caves, and then they escorted us all the way back to our car, because that area didn't feel very safe, and I was, as a mom, pretty nervous. So Papa gave us a tour, but he also gave us some protection, some bodyguards. It was awesome. So I love doing real time with Papa. I love to see what it is he's up to, what he wants to talk to me about next. So we have to stay kind of open to that. We have to stay flexible to allow that to happen. Like big boots, and hey, there we go. Let's just destroy this place, Rebekah. My Haggadah. Yes. Okay, so I don't know if you can see this, but for showing up today, I'm going to give you, this is a PDF. This is only at like a quarter section of my Big Feast book. So my Big Feast handbook, Spring Feast handbook. I have a Fall Feast handbook, but my Spring Feast is like, 3 times this or more. But this is the Seder section for the Haggadah. And so I don't know if you can see it, but I have in here, this is an extremely family-friendly Haggadah. So I know there's all kinds of different Haggadahs. Here's one from my friend that I walked through this morning. I read it, and it's beautiful. I mean, what she has in here is just really good stuff. I mean, it's so good. I just happen to need, more visual. So, and I also have always been like, how do I involve the kids in this very long, it can be very, very long Seder. So I have events. So this is number 4. Number 3 is pray. Number 3 is blow shofars. 4 is prayer. Blah blah blah. And then we go through this. And number 12 we read. Number 13 we do an activity. Number 14, and then all the way to the end. So we go through the entire thing. And I think I have 60 activities, and they're all numbered, nice and big. There's some coloring pages in there. 58. So I have 58 activities. So I have a sidebar that tells you what those activities are, and the Seder that you actually walk through right there, or the telling, the Haggadah. I'm excited that you someday after Shabbat can go look at my store and buy things from my store, because I'm creating all this stuff so that you can buy it, you can share it, you can buy stuff for other people, you can put it into your treasure chest, and hopefully it will feed you. That's the idea, is to light your path and feed you a little bit. So if you don't eat of Yahshua, you ain't getting into the kingdom. If you don't eat of Yahshua, you ain't getting into the happily ever after. So since it is so important, Yahshua said it himself. There's a huge section of the scriptures that is in the Matthew, I think, that talks about, you got to eat of me, you got to drink me, you got to drink my blood and eat of me, or otherwise. He lost most of his followers when he said that. So if it's so important, how do we do that? Huge question. So especially as a mom trying to figure out how to share this with your family, how to get your kids to eat of Yahshua. They want to eat everything but, right? So one book that I really love is John Eldredge's Outlaw book. Now, it's definitely coming from a Christian's perspective, but man, he nails it. Oh man. Because he looks at the personality of Yahshua. We, in part of our restoration is that we get to become like Yahshua. But how do you become like him? And what part of him do you get? Just becomes part of you. His personality, his character becomes part of you. But it only becomes part of you if you eat of him. So how do you eat of him? You know, you eat with your eyes. You eat with your eyes. You eat with your ears. You eat with your mouth. You eat with your environment. You eat with what you do. You're intaking, okay? So I'm big on this. I'm huge on this. John talks about how to eat of Yahshua in the sense of he looks at the personality of Yahshua and says, what is Yahshua like? And then you ponder that. You meditate on that. You behold that. And you act like him. And the more you do that, the more he becomes part of you. I love Isaac's big thing. He says, like, one of the biggest things to do when you're trying to eat of him is to say, well, what would Yahshua do? In any situation you find yourself in that you don't know what to do with anything about, stop, breathe, and then say, okay, what would Yahshua do? And then do that. It's like beautiful. Okay, so Papa Yahweh's Cafe is a menu that you can give your kids on Erev Shabbat. Whenever you break bread together, you're going to go, whoa, okay, something that Yahshua has. Oh, he has love above all else, right? So here's something that the kids can order that night while they're eating of Yahshua. The incredible love above all waffle. Yahshua showed that love trumps words and that obedience to his royal law must be combined with love, or obeying means nothing. And then you can look up all the scriptures here in this little nifty, what do you call that one? It's an extra thing you put in there. Anyway, so if you go to our website, you can see in there and get on if you're not already. But also on our Facebook page down at the bottom with our group, down at the bottom it says sign me up or join me. I don't know. I just knew. All right, so I just want to go over really quickly how to use my calendar, because this is this. Okay, this is my calendar. So, and for anybody who's bought the calendar, living this Hebrew walk is very difficult when you have the Gregorian calendar as well nearby, or you're trying to do both. So I just want to just go over this just for a second. So Rosh Hashanah is the first day of the first month, okay? And that was last week. Last week. The issue becomes, when do you put number 1? In which box do you put number 1? The first day. Because last week it was Monday was Rosh Hashanah, but it came at sundown on Sunday. So this gets really confusing for even me. I am still confused. I get confused in the sense I not confused, but I have to like look at it pretty hard and go, okay, wait, where are we? And what is, I've been doing this for many years. In fact, I grew up celebrating Shabbat. And so, 49 years and I'm still like, okay, it's Friday night, when the sun sets. I got the Shabbat thing down real good, but as far as like the rest of the week or rest of the Shabbats, it's a little bit difficult. So I just want to help you. If you bought my calendar and you are looking at filling it in for a month of Aviv, the first month, and you need to fill that in, you don't put 1 here because that's Sunday. Okay, it started in the evening, yes, but your first full day is going to be Monday. So that's going to be number 1. That's going to be the first day, okay? Get it? First day here. So Monday's the first full day, even though we acknowledged it, marked it as soon as it came in, as soon as that first day came in, which is at sunset. So that first day was at sunset on Sunday, but that number 1 goes right here in this box on Monday, and then you start counting. That'll get you into the right day for Passover, for Pesach, okay? So I think my directions are pretty clear. It's definitely something you have to wrap your brain around and just keep practicing. All right, so I have a little show and tell here. I think I already did this, but except that For those ladies who don't know, I have a Mastery of Matzah cookbook out there that helps you learn how to make matzah, and it's super good. I also wanted to show you the Spring Feast book. This is a pre-order situation right now, which I'll get later. But again, this has the full Haggadah in it that you're going to get for being here today, but it has everything else in it as well, which it covers unleavened bread, it covers first fruits, the resurrection, and Shavuot has its own one, but this also will cover the Ascension. So huge book there, handbook. Then it will be done. Then I'll have, well, no, because then I've got the winter festivals I want to do, but I'll have Shavuot handbook done and the Fall Feast handbook done, and then this one will be done. The reason why I do this is because I really want my daughters to remember for the rest of their life the path. So anyway, and I got those two books, but I want to show you right now some things that we learned from when we were first celebrating. Even we've used these for years, actually. This is from Batya Wooten, Israel's Feast in Their Fullness. This is an incredible book that taught us a ton about the festivals, and it has different kinds of seders in there. Another book that we loved was The Feast of the Lord by Howard and Rosenthal. This is incredible. This is definitely Christians looking at it from, looking at the Jewish festivals, but messianic in the sense of they acknowledge Yahshua in here, and so you're going to discover so much about how Yahshua fulfilled the feasts and what the feasts are about with both these two books. But this one, I love this one. This is one of the first ones we got, and then we got this one. We have a couple others at home, but I wanted to show you those. All right, that's my little show and tell. Not much today, but that's okay. Okay, so we're going to talk about Passover or Pesach just for a few minutes, just for a little bit here. So I'm going to just start chatting for a second. I love that little. I love that picture of Yahshua, that drawing. Can't remember who did it, but it's online. It's called Sweet Jesus, I think. If you typed in Sweet Jesus, then you would get there. All right, so the flow of the spring feast. So one thing I want you to... Oh, hey, I'm going to show you something. So before we get into that, this is... I don't know if you can see it. Susie's Muscle and Joint Salve. This has CBD oil in it, and I just have to say that, so my neck is kind of hurting right now, so I'm gonna put some on. Isaac has some back pain and whatnot, and so I decided to try this, and it is amazing. It like works. I went to the health food store and was standing there, and my neck was hurting. My shoulders were hurting really bad, and so she let me try a couple different CBD oil salves, and oh man, within just a few minutes my pain was gone, and same with Isaac. So I know that Melissa, I know that Melissa does CBD, so if you want something like this, just contact Melissa. I don't know what she sells, I don't know how it works with her, but I know that she's into that, and I'm so loving CBD oil right now. So I just thought I'd show you that. Okay. So we're going to talk about the flow of the spring feast here, because this is like a little river that you are going to raft. So next week is Pesach. We've got Pesach is on Sunday. It is a work day. Right, so it's when they slaughtered all the lambs. It's when the high priest put his lamb in the oven, kind of thing, on the 14th day of the first month. Now, it didn't fall on Sunday that year that Yahshua was here. It fell on Wednesday. That's right. So yeah, okay. So Pesach is a work day. It's on Sunday this year, and then at sunset on Sunday starts the 15th day of the month, which begins the Feast of Unleavened Bread. Now, the first day and the last day of unleavened bread are high Shabbats. So you eat the Passover meal at sunset on Passover, which means you're actually eating that meal on the high Shabbat, the first high Shabbat of unleavened bread. For those of you who are new to this, I know it's pretty difficult to kind of wrap your brain around, but you've got unleavened bread that goes for 7 days, right? And you have first fruits in there. So first fruits is a really cool little, very like we don't pay attention to it enough. I don't think. Look, my neck pain is all gone. Yeah, I'm just totally. I want it all over my body. First fruits falls on the day after the weekly Shabbat during unleavened bread. Did you get that? First fruits falls on the day after the weekly Shabbat during unleavened bread, which means it always will be on the first day of the week. It will always be on a Sunday. All right. If you're doing lunar Shabbat and all that nonsense, then I can't. I have nothing to say. It doesn't work. It doesn't work because the scripture makes it pretty clear that you're supposed to take first fruits falls on the Sunday, basically, the day after the weekly Shabbat during unleavened bread. So this year is a little tricky because unleavened bread goes all the way to Sunday, the next Sunday, and that is first fruits as well. So you actually this year have the last day of unleavened bread and first fruits on the same day. We also celebrate the resurrection. So we have a resurrection party in the middle of that as well. So the flow is Pesach, 1 day, unleavened bread, 7 days. In the middle of that, you have resurrection and you have first fruits. And then later, 40 days later, first fruits, you start counting the Omer. That'll get you to Shavuot, which is the last spring feast. And between that, you have 40 days after he shows up to have dinner with the guys. 40 days later, you have the Ascension. And we celebrate the Ascension because of all the work that he accomplished during that. So it's kind of a package deal. When people talk to me about one, they would just want to focus on one. It's a little bit difficult because it kind of comes as a package, the whole thing, because the spring feast season the spring feasts all work together. They're so intertwined. The death on Pesach, the burial during unleavened bread, and the resurrection is directly tied to first fruits. It's all kind of like, if you didn't have one, you wouldn't have the other. So when I teach on it or when we do it, I really like to make sure that we remember that it's a package deal. It's kind of how I can't quite pull one out and just talk on that. Not completely. I mean, we do, but not. You want to look at the bigger picture while you're celebrating these spring feasts. So why is it important to look at these from a Melchizedek perspective? So one thing about our Seder is from a Melchizedek perspective, which is kind of sets it apart from others, I think, that I have seen, because the Melchizedek mindset emphasizes the work of the Messiah, and because the Melchizedek understanding truly knows what he was accomplishing, truly explains what he was accomplishing there and in the garden tomb area. So with his crucifixion, with his burial, with the resurrection, there's so much there that is intricately tied to the Melchizedek understanding. So he was raised high priest and king in the order of the Melchizedek. Because he came and he did all this work, there is now a change in priests, which means a change in law, but not to no law. So you have to figure out what that law is. It's very, very important. He was basically, with his work there, he was rendering the Levites jobless. And he was reestablishing a new order, the new superior order that Hebrews talks about. So I know that we walked through this Melchizedek understanding together before, but when I say Melchizedek perspective, when I say that I write something in a Melchizedek mindset, it's because I'm really seeking out the Melchizedek understanding in that situation, in that story, in that feast, because I want to give all the honor to the work of the Messiah as much as I know, because I feel like there's so many Messianic Seders that really miss the point. There's a lot that end up being very rabbinical, very traditional, and kind of forget the point. I just encourage you as you're creating your Haggadah, which what you're going to do with mine is you don't have to follow it completely. Just glean from it. Take a few ideas, make your own, or follow the whole thing, whatever you want to do. But keep in mind that to honor the Messiah and his work is of supreme importance as a follower, as a Talmudim of Yahshua. That needs to be foremost on our mind. All right, so today I'm not going to teach specifics today at all. Maybe next week we'll hit a couple of specifics, but there's a ton of specifics in right here. There's specifics in the big book coming. I'm going to assume that y'all are kind of doing your homework and learning about the spring feasts and listening to the Rock teach you. There's so much. It's just this huge, so much to learn that I don't even know how you would approach going through it in a little show here. So I'm not going to try today. I'm going to just mention a couple things that I think are important. And one of those is who should celebrate the Passover. So this is something that some of you probably know. The scriptures makes it pretty clear in the Torah that no foreigner is to eat of the Passover, and that in order to eat of the Passover you must be circumcised and be part of Israel. So looking at that, there is definitely, we've been in the past careful with who we have invited to come. So we feel like the people that show up should be people who are living in covenant, or want to live in covenant, want to repent, want to learn how to do this. At the same time, on the other hand, we also know that Yehovah says that he, or Yahshua wants to knock on all doors. He's knocking on everyone's hearts. And so we also see that they could bring somebody to the Seder table because they want them there. So I'm going to look at the command and say, all right, well, I'm not going to put a huge, announcement out there to gather strangers off the street. At the same time, I'm not going to say no to somebody who truly wants to come and learn about Yehovah and his ways. So I feel like I leave that to Papa. One of the things that we do, I was just saying, never mind. I won't go there. Okay, one of the things that we do before we have a feast is that we say, okay, we have our list of people that we want to come. We've invited them, and we've prayed over them, hoping that they will, be courageous and strong and actually come, and not let something else step in or come up that they want to do instead. But we also know that the Ruach will keep people from coming who aren't ready to come. And she will bring people that we never expected. So I love this about the helper. You have a helper. You have the Ruach HaKodesh who can help bring people to your table and keep people away from the table. The Ruach knows their heart. She knows what path they're on. She knows where their focus has been. She knows if it's time or not. Sometimes it's not time. So we really pray and say, okay, we've laid our plans at your feet. This is who we've invited. This is what we're going to do. But Ruach, please keep people away who you don't want there. People that are leaven, people who are going to hurt your heart, or people who are not ready. Keep them away, and then bring anyone who is supposed to come. So we really give control over to them by doing it that way. I've had people before, even just to fellowship with. Just purely to fellowship with. There's groups out there who will interview you and not let you come into their fellowship until they have interviewed you. So I remember being incredibly repulsed by that, because I thought, what? I can't just come over and say hi and whatnot, and you want to interview me and see if I'm qualified to be in your group or not? That's like a click. So, but on the flip side, I understand, because after you open your home up to a lot of different people coming in and out, I mean, it can be pretty hard on your heart. So I understand. I understand why they were doing that, but at the same time, I really like to give the Ruach full control over that. And the more in line I stay with Yehovah, the more I am connected to the Ruach HaKodesh, the more I know I'm secure, and I feel safe in the fact that they will bring who they want, they will take away who they want, and yes, I may have a bloody heart afterwards, and they may have to pick me up off the ground and resuscitate me, but that is their problem. Do you know what I'm saying? So I think we try to save ourselves so much. I really think we try to say, I'm going to make sure that I have all scenarios covered so that I don't get hurt. I'm going to protect myself. But I don't see Yahshua doing that at all. I don't see him protecting himself like that. I see him, wide open. Now, he's wise, and he knows when to leave. He knows when to withdraw. He knows how to connect with his Father. He knows who's a snake and who's not, so he calls people out. And he called only 12 into his circle. He called 3 into an inner circle. So I definitely think there's a lot of wisdom that I want to learn from. But I also don't think, I know he didn't he wasn't protective of himself to say, I don't want to give of myself because I'm terrified of being hurt. So yes, Yehovah is good. They know what they're doing, and they can pick you up off the floor, and they can fix it. They can fix you, as in resuscitate you, bring you back to life. And this is part of the battle, ladies. This is part of the battle. Men. So, yeah, Allison, with the warrior prayer, doing coverage, that sort of coverage, and then realizing and remembering that no matter what happens, Yehovah can bring you back to life. He can fix what has been hurt. He can heal your heart, and he can breathe back into you. You just don't look at anyone else. Just look at him. Okay? All right, so one other thing I just want to mention today is that Melchizedek disciples. So the disciples were Melchizedek. I don't think anybody has probably said that before, but they weren't Messianic Jews. They were Melchizedek disciples. And what I mean by that is that they were Messianic in the sense that they believed in the Messiah, and they believed in the second coming, the return of him in someday. But Messianic has gotten a different definition of it, I guess, since then. So to clarify, they believed that Yahshua was now bringing the new order. They believed that Yahshua was calling them to be a nation of royal priests. Yehovah ripped that curtain in half, making himself available now through the work of Yahshua, and made him available to people. So you didn't need a hierarchical society. You didn't need somebody between you and Yehovah. Okay, so they were Melchizedek disciples. Yeah, so I think that's just an important kind of thing to think about there, is they were Melchizedek. Okay? And the ramifications of that, I think, is huge, because we don't want the rabbinical nonsense. We don't, during the feast season, when you go into it, be really careful what traditions you adopt. The rabbinical, you want Torah without rabbinics, right, Melissa? You want Torah without rabbinics. So you're going to obey, but you're going to do it without the rabbinics of the rabbis that Yahshua was completely against. So the Melchizedek mindset just helps you do that, because you're focused on the change that came, that he provided, the change that was provided in Torah at Genesis 49:10. Shiloh would come and he would change. He would get rid of that temporary Levitical law, and he would reestablish the royal law. And that's what they were super excited about. That's what they went to the nations for. That's what they went to the stake for. That's what they preached. That is the good news of the gospel, is this change in priesthood, change in priest, high priest, change in priesthood order, change in the whole system, how it's going to work, and what you now had to obey. So I have someone who has a question that she texted right before I got on the show today. It's a serious question. How are we saved, basically? And that is, I wish I could, it's on my phone, I can't read it. It's huge. How do you get from here to there? Who is saved and how do you get from here to there? She's confused. And she's having conflicting thoughts because she's been a Christian her whole life, but now she's starting to have some input about a different walk that doesn't sound like the Christian walk. It's the walk we're walking. So she's confused. And that right there is the Melchizedek understanding is what you need to understand the path. And I'm not prepared to teach on that right now, but basically the idea is that, you're saved. What does it say? Through grace, by faith in Yahshua. So you're saved by grace. Grace meaning amazing grace, as in, wow, it's grace that provided a way for you to work out your own salvation. All right, there's a faithfulness through faith, as in fidelity, as in you're going to be faithful to the end. You're going to do this at all costs. You're going to not give up. So you are going to, through the grace of Yehovah to provide a way by which you can walk. You're going to be faithful to that walk. And you are going to do that way. That way is through Yahshua. So you actually have to get Yahshua in you to be perfect like him so that you can walk into the happily ever after. And this is what the Feast of Unleavened Bread is all about. I love these feasts. I just love these feasts because you got Pesach. Pesach is the blood that actually obliterates our sin. We can actually get clean and washed in his blood, and it obliterates sin. And then all the leaven. Leaven is, sin is represented by leaven in the scriptures several times, or a lot. And so basically the idea is you get cleansed of the leaven through the blood of Yeshua. You get washed with his blood, and then what happens? The very next feast tells you what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to eat of him. There are more commands in the Torah about what you're supposed to do during that feast than what you're not supposed to do. So you're not supposed to eat leavened bread, but there is so many commands there that say what you're supposed to eat. It says eat matzah, eat unleavened bread, eat unleavened. Well, who is the unleavened one? It's Yeshua. So that feast is all about what you're supposed to do. And then on the end, the first fruits is like this, oh my gosh, it's like this beautiful picture, this promise of a final harvest, And we believe that it was 144,000 that he took up there and waved. The revelation is so clear about who those 144,000 are. 144,000 are that it is the first fruits. If you're not feast illiterate, and you read that section, read Revelation, you can understand what the 144 are. Those are the ones that the graves opened and they were marked. And then the sickle came to them at the sunset when he rose, right there when the priest went out and he cut them from the ground. That's when they rose, when Yeshua rose, and those are 144,000. He waved before Yehovah on first fruits as a promise of a final harvest. I just love his ways, but we have to remember that he cleanses us and he gets rid of our sin of the past, but there's something we have to do. We have to actually eat of Yeshua. This is part of walking the path. You have to walk this path as an eat. He's the way. And there is no other way besides getting him in us, right? Yeshua said it over and over. You must eat of me. You must eat of me, right? If you don't eat of me, you can't have life. He says all the time, if you want life, what do you do? How do you get life? Keep his commandments. Keep the commandments. So you're going to keep the commandments of the royal law that is everlasting. And you're going to do it in the way that Yahshua told us to do it, with that new and quality love that we talked about a long time ago. So new and quality love is what he gives us. When you eat of him, you're going to get his new and quality love. You are going to, you're going to eat. You're going to get this new and quality love, and then you're going to obey from a heart full of love. And then the beautiful thing at the end of the whole spring feast season, you've got the ascension in there, where now he's going to give his royal priests, he's going to share his authority so you can get rid of the demons, so you can bring his kingdom to this planet, in your environment, in your domain. But then at Shavuot, oh my gosh, that's the climax of the whole thing. Total. He's going to give you the Ruach, he wants to give you the Ruach HaKodesh to get you into a legal contract with him that will force Hasatan to release his claim on you. So you do that through the indwelling of the Ruach HaKodesh. He wants to give you that on Shavuot. And what does Jeremiah say? Jeremiah says he's going to make a new contract with us, a new covenant, new contract. It's a brand new contract. It's a better, superior contract because it has the indwelling of the Ruach HaKodesh. And what is the Ruach going to do? She's going to move you to do what? To say, I accept you, Jesus Christ, as my Lord and Savior, so now I am saved, and you're going to go on with your life? No. She's going to move you to keep his law. What law then is it? That's where the trick is. It's figuring out what law it is that the Ruach is going to come live in you, dwell in you, to move you to do. So you actually have to do something, people. So if there's anyone on here who doesn't know that, I so pray that the Ruach gives you eyes to see and ears to hear. All right. So then one other thing I wanted to talk about real quick was the Last Supper, Pesach. All right. So was the Last Supper the Pesach meal? Now, I've had so many conversations with people about this that I finally made a very comprehensive, the most comprehensive that I could possibly do, and Isaac edited it for me, so we did it together. I did a comprehensive study on this. It is on a Prezi that I posted to the group. It's in the feed down a little bit, but it is Yahshua Fulfills Pesach. It's a Prezi, so when you click on that button, it's going to take you to a Prezi, like a PowerPoint slide, online PowerPoint slide thing. As public, so anybody can go there and watch it, and you can just click through the slides, and it's going to take you through the whole thing, all the scriptures, to show you that was not Pesach. So it's going to take you the whole thing, and it's going to show you that Last Supper was not the Passover meal. It could not have been the Passover meal. And I know some of you have this book, the Chronological Gospels. This is fabulous because this is going to make your heart rest. It's going to rest. It's going to make your heart rest, because he takes the 70-week ministry of Yahshua through the 4 Gospels, and he combines them so that you see the progression of his work throughout his whole ministry, his 70-week ministry. And you can see where he was at the feast. You can see what he was speaking about at the feast. So he interprets the feast for you. But I want to show you here. Let's see if I can find it pretty quickly. Where this could not have been. And part of this is just translation issues. Well, all of it is translation issues, honestly. It's really cool how he does this, because he's got events. So there's events to Yeshua's life. And event 181 is the Last Supper before the Passover. It's on the 14th day. So 181 is the Last Supper before the Passover. Okay, so John 13:1 says, "Now before the feast of Passover, Yeshua knew that the hour had come, and that he should depart out of this world to the Father. He, having loved his own which were in the world, loved them to the very end, and after the Last Supper had ended." So he's placing John is placing the Last Supper before the Passover. Man, he's eating. It's very, very important meal, by the way. that Last Supper was super important because it was the Last Supper where he was doing the covenant confirming meal and ratifying the new covenant in his blood, the new contract, the new Melchizedek contract in his blood. And so that was a very, very important meal. But you'll notice that he, one of the commands for unleavened bread is to get rid of all the leaven out of your house. And his house was his disciples. It was his fellowship, so his family right there. And he got rid of the leaven that night after this Lord's Supper, after that Last Supper. He got rid of the leaven. He got rid of Judas that night, remember? So it couldn't have been the Passover meal had Judas been there. It would have been the Passover meal had Judas not been there, because Judas was the leaven in that whole fellowship. So Yahshua got rid of him before the Passover. All right, and then in John, I think that says 13:1, he says, before the feast of Passover, Yahshua knew that his hour was come. So Matthew 26:17 says, on the first day of the festival of unleavened bread, the disciples came to Yahshua and asked, where do you want us to make preparations for you to eat the Passover? So Matthew 26:17. For one thing, this verse doesn't make any sense, or it doesn't make any sense to anyone who is feast literate, because the disciples would not be making preparations for the Passover meal after the Passover meal on the high Shabbat of the Feast of Unleavened Bread. So if you remember, you got Passover, and then you've got the Feast of Unleavened Bread starts, right? So this verse in the translations, most translations in Matthew 26:17 says, on the first day of the festival of unleavened bread, the disciples came and said, where do you want us to make preparations for you to eat the Passover the day before? That doesn't make any sense whatsoever. So you, as a feast literate person, you know that it's backwards. So you have Passover and then unleavened bread. They wouldn't have been asking him on unleavened bread, how do you want us to prepare for the Passover, which was the day before? So another thing that's interesting is that, if you look at the bread that he breaks, the word in there for that bread indicates a loaf, which is risen. It has yeast in it. So the bread that he used the night of the Last Supper was actually leavened bread, which he wouldn't have had at if it had been a Pesach meal. And then on top of it, he tells them to go buy a sword that night. Remember, he would never have told them to go buy a sword had it been that Passover, because that night, while they're eating the meal, would have been the high Shabbat. Nothing would have been open. He wouldn't have commanded them to go purchase something. So you'll like my Seder. There's a lot to read in it. So I think I'll just leave that right there. Just so you know, which you all probably know, which is probably one of the first lies you all figured out that you had been taught in Christianity, was that there's no such thing as the Friday crucifixion. Was it Good Friday? And Resurrection Sunday, or Resurrection morning on Sunday. There's no such thing as that. There's probably one of the first things that came undone with you. But yes, he was crucified on Wednesday. He stayed in the grave Wednesday night, Thursday night, Friday night. He stayed in the grave all day on Thursday, all day Friday, and all day on Shabbat at the very end. So of Shabbat, he rose. So he died right before the sunset on Wednesday, and he rose right before sunset. He rose on Shabbat. Did I say that right? So there's full 3 days and full 3 nights in the grave, just like he said, the sign of Jonah. All right, so I just wanted to share with you our first Seder experience. So we were Christians, and some friends invited us to our very first Seder, and the girls were really little. So we drove a very long way to go to this Passover meal, and we get there, and it's a little bit flustered. Everybody's kind of flustered, and it's this huge, very traumatic kind of event kind of going on. I had 2 little girls. One was sitting on my lap, and the other one was sitting by me. Maggie was little. Hadassah was a baby, as far as I remember, but eating food at that point. Well, the table was lined with all this beautiful, just all this food, right? And this huge, long Seder. It just took 5 hours to go through. We could hardly eat at all. We didn't get to eat very much throughout and it drove me mad. I had little girls, and they were starving because we'd driven a very long way to the Seder. And the point being is that it was a difficult Seder because it didn't think about the audience that was coming. It was very dry. It was very boring. And when we left, I said, this is what I said, I will never do that again. I said, I will never do that again. And here, probably 2 years later, I start becoming the feast diva. I'm all about it. So I had a transformation of heart in there, but it was there was clearly issue there. And when I started doing the Seders at home, I really wanted to bring my children's heart along. I really wanted to bring the guests' hearts along with it. So I didn't want it to be the same experience that I had out there. So just make sure that you consider your audience. Here's the thing. We've been to a huge corporate Seder. We had over 200 people in Arizona, in Mesa, Arizona. And that one was very messianic, was not Melchizedek at all. But it was super fun, it was shallow. So you can go to extremes. So for me, it's like, how do I do serious, deep, and meaningful, and yet bring my children's hearts along at the same time? For me, that's the big question, and that's where I look at all the feasts and all the traditions that we adopt. I'm trying to make sure that the kids are invited into, because this is what's going to happen, lady. You got to pass this down to your children, because if you don't pass it down to your children, it stops, it dies with you, right? This is not about you just doing it. This is about you showing someone else and how to do it, and impressing upon your children the ways of Yehovah. So you have to do it in a way that is going to make them want to do it again, right? And make it meaningful for them, not just, hey, let's go bowling tonight. And I don't understand. It blows my mind how you can't set it apart if you're just doing something that you could do any other time. So I think the quicker we can do it with our kids, the better. I'm gonna guess that if they see you more alive, more happy, more vibrant, more excited, and creating these things that are just amazing, they're going to be interested if they're called. So if they're hearing the call and you're living in that, and it's just by your inertia, by you putting all that energy out there to do this, their eyes are going to be turned. They're like, what's mom doing? Let's go check it out. And if you do it in a way that's going to, that you love, that you're excited about, they're going to see that excitement and they're going to come with you. That's part of the thing about being an entertainer, being on film and stuff like that, and something that I have learned just by doing this show and all the videos online, is that in some respects I entertain. I teach, but I entertain. And if I don't believe it, if you can tell I don't believe it, you're not going to be interested. So I have to convince you that I'm all in. I have to say, man, with everything I am so in love with Papa, and you're going to know whether I'm lying or not. I'm authentically me, but some mornings I get up really tired and I'm like, oh, I don't feel like doing this. But I'm like, okay, what's my motives? And I go down through, okay, I can do this. I want to be like this force that is like pulling people with me. Like, let's go, let's get on this life raft. Come on, baby, let's go. Do you understand what I'm saying? I think it's hard to get rekindled with seeing you be excited about this and walking in this. And because I don't think it's always about Torah thumping. I know it's not. It's not about like always just trying to have a foul-proof argument kind of thing. Like, you could argue till you're blue in the face, but if you don't have love, you don't have like joy, you don't have like excitement and creativeness and inspiration, you're not gonna affect anyone. You're not gonna pull anyone along. If all you want to do is hammer out this, it's not. He's not after our brains. He's after our hearts, right? So he wants your heart. He's wooing your heart. That's what he He knows, Yehovah knows, that love is stronger than anything Hasatan can throw at you. Fear, death, doesn't matter, anything. Love is stronger. And love is that language that the heart speaks. It's not a language of the brain. It's a language of the heart. So you can go ahead and you can prove to someone till you're blue in the face. You can have the most dialed up, hardwired, packaged argument, and you can be the greatest debater in the world and have no love, and you will be a clanging cymbal, and Papa cannot use you at all. So you stay creative. Stay beautiful, stay happy, stay joyful, and you are going to be a power to be reckoned with. Yes. And it's going to take endurance on your part. It's going to take conviction. This is all wrapped up in this whole faithful idea. You're going to be faithful to him through all situations. So it's not going to be just a picnic or anything like that, but you... tap into that Ezer Kenegdo idea, and you will be definitely a force to be reckoned with. And your emo cons, unfortunately we have to be doing that right now when we're online. When you're on Facebook and stuff, make sure that somebody understands as best you can how you're trying to speak it. With the don't shout. Don't use large, capital letters unless you mean to shout. Use some emojis if you can, and full sentences and soft tones, and Anyway, you hear my heart. All right. Hadassah's very favorite Seder. So I don't know if you've seen it before, but in one of the videos I have in the feed, it's like a trailer I think it says Passover, Unleavened Bread, and First Fruits Overview or something like that. But if you go in there and you watch the whole thing, it's just walks through the feast season with us a little bit as a family, and you'll see in there an RV glowing, sitting at the base of this beautiful mountain that looks like Mount Sinai. We were in Arizona at that point, living in a 21-foot RV. A cat, a dog, 2 teenagers, and Isaac and I. And I mean, crazy. We had sold everything that we had of value and bought this RV to go on a tour and try to spread the word and find the youth of this movement. And we were there in Arizona over Passover, and we were at this, what's it called, Hadassah? Lost Dutchman campground. Anyway, and parked this RV there over the weekend so we could spend the High Shabbat parked and enjoy. But that by far was Hadassah's favorite Passover, favorite Pesach. We've had huge ones before. Last year we put up our big Abraham's tent, had a pretty big Passover Seder over there in Spokane last year. So we've pulled out the stops to do these great huge feasts, but the kids remember the small one. The kids remember the one that was I had a little box of stuff right here. I think I brought menorah, and we made matzah over the fire outside. It was very, very simple. We still dressed up. We got into the spirit of it and decked out the RV as best we could. But don't stress. It doesn't have to be fancy, okay? And sometimes the things that will impress your children or your family the most are the simplest. And I need to remember that. Because I have so many boxes of things. I feel like I have to take it all out and decorate, use it all every single time. But no, not necessarily. Papa, it's the movement of the Ruach on your heart that you want. The decorations and all that, it's just going to help. That's all. It's just going to help. And you don't have to have a ton. But, sometimes the Ruach doesn't even need those. So, Hadassah's favorite Seder was at Lost Dutchman campground there in Arizona in a 21-foot RV. It was, so beautiful. I loved it too. Warm evening. Got to see the moon, and it's beautiful. Pesach thunderclap. I just wanted to encourage you to, Papa Yah will teach you how he wants to. So remember, too much information too soon may not be good, and let him guide you. So when you come across something that requires you to sit and think about it and chew on it, sit and chew on it. Don't try to keep eating. You'll gulp, you'll gasp, you'll fill up too fast, your tummy can't handle too much at once, right? So you gotta portion things out. And remember how he said, when you go into the land, you're going to take it over a little bit at a time, because otherwise the lions will come and it will be too much for you. It's the same thing with information. Same thing with this feast stuff, is sometimes it's too much. Like this Seder, frankly, for some of you, this may be too much. Just read through it, skim through it, and say, Papa, what do you want me to see? Oh, I see that. I want to do that. Okay. Skim. Oh, how about that one? And some of you are going to go, oh, I've got so much to add to this. That'll be great, whatever. But too much too soon sometimes may not be good. So let Papa teach you. Did I say thunderclap there? I just remember. So yeah, okay, because the thunderclap happened at the teepee for us. So just a quick story. We were at the teepee. We moved everything out of the teepee. We invited 17 people up. And we ended up having 14 people in there. We had prayed, Isaac and I, the night before, prayed for good weather, because we wanted to have it outside. We wanted to have the Seder outside, because the teepee was kind of, that's really tight. And so I said, Papa, I'll know that you're here if you send me great weather for Passover. So the next day, guess what happened? Woke up to snow and cold. And we're like, oh, that wasn't quite what I was asking for, Papa. Okay, now what do we do? So we still moved everything out, got the whole teepee ready, and I'm cooking, flying around. It's in the afternoon, and all of a sudden over the mountain. So we're on the hill, and our teepee's right here, and so the backside of the mountain, so we're north facing. Then weather would come over the mountain. It would make and come over the mountain, and the mountain made its own weather, and it came over, and all of a sudden, like, Isaac and I, we were nearby each other, but we were working on different things, and all of a sudden you heard this chakam, just like huge thunderclap right over the teepee. And I shot up, and I looked at Isaac, I said, did you hear that? And he's like, whoa. And we kind of ran, and then all of a sudden I stopped, and I'm like, whoa, what time is it? I'm like, I bet I know what time it is. I ran into the teepee, and I looked at the time. It was 3 o'clock in the afternoon. The moment that Yahshua died. That week we were on the same schedule too. It was the same day. So it was like Passover. Pesach was that Wednesday, and unleavened bread started that Thursday. So we were on the very same schedule, and that blew me away, and I just got tingly everywhere. I was like, oh, Papa, because there wasn't one more thunderclap. There was absolutely no more weather. It was that one huge thunderclap. No, there was no lightning, no nothing, just that clap really loud over the teepee. And I knew in a heartbeat that he was saying, you're on the right time, Rebekah, and I'm here with you the way I want to be here with you. But he said, this is what I want you to learn right now. You're on the right time, and I want to be with you the way I want to be with you. So I'm not going to show up in the sunshine today. I'm going to show up in a thunderclap at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, when my son died, 2,000 some years ago. So, I thought that was okay. And then we talked about this earlier, how to rehearse and celebrate the feast. Make sure that you don't do it with the leaven of the Pharisees. Okay. All right. So I am almost done here. Shabbat Shalom, Sabbath peace, Shavu Tov. We are done with our show today, and I thank you so much for joining me. I know that you all are going to begin preparing for Pesach throughout the course of this week. Wow, it's exciting. I am so excited myself to tear into my boxes and remember things that I forgot. Yahweh bless you today with lots of rest and joy, and give you courage and finances. May he grant you wealth so that you can throw a great and grand feast for him. But if he doesn't, may he grant you wisdom and gentleness of spirit to relax and just let it come. And sometimes those may be the best feasts of all.